Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill. Joining me today are Graham Noble, Dave Patterson, John Clark, and Michelle White. And this is the Conservative 5, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. Well, that crazy, dare I say, humorless state of Hawaii stuck its overreaching hand into the honeycomb and was reliably stung. The Aloha State's Act 191, signed into law in 2024, aims to regulate election-related content that is materially deceptive. And that docket must be mountainous at this point. The stinger came from the satirical site, the Babylon Bee. As a federal judge for the District of Hawaii, a Joe Biden appointee, no less, ruled in favor of the Babylon Bee in a recent affront on free speech. Graham, just take over from here.
Well, yeah, this is a funny one. Of course, you know, the Babylon Bee has become very well known for getting fact checked on for its social media posts. And of course, it's all satire. And I've even seen a few conservatives on social media read a Babylon Bee headline and then get all serious about it because they thought it was a real thing, which kind of always makes me laugh. But yeah, so the bee has come in from a lot of criticism from the left because left-wingers, it seems they don't have a sense of humor. It seems the only thing that left-wingers laugh about these days are kind of spiteful, vicious jokes about, Trump or Republicans or conservatives in general. That's the only thing they find funny, apparently, these days. Nothing else is funny.
Cuts off the supply of food.
But with this law in Hawaii, kind of things went a bit far because essentially this law said that during election season, and they defined election season as from February 1st until election day, which of course is in November, whether it's, midterms or whether it's a presidential general election year, it's November. So from 1st of February until November 3rd, every even numbered year, because that's the year that we either have midterms or a general, that you can't post what they consider, you can't publish or distribute what they consider to be, materially deceptive material. But, who's the arbiter of that? Who gets to decide what is deceptive and what's not? Because as we all know, and I'm not saying that people on the right don't do this because some of them are guilty of it, but very much on the left side of the political divide, people just simply, if they read something that they don't like or they don't approve of, or that doesn't fit their narrative, then they call it deceptive. They say it's lies. They say it's misinformation, regardless. I mean, you could have a mountain of facts to prove, to verify everything, and yet they will still just come out with a straight face and say that's all lies. So, of course, when you have now a state passing a law saying that you cannot you cannot distribute this kind of material on social media or in print or whatever, because we've decided that it's deceptive. Well, who gets to say, who gets to decide whether it's deceptive or not? So, of course, the judge, and, as you pointed out, as I pointed out in my article about this, the judge actually was a Biden appointee, but this judge sided with the Babylon Bee. And also there was another individual involved in this case, a resident of Hawaii who actually posts satirical stuff on social media as well. But they won the case, and Hawaii has been permanently enjoined from enforcing this law. And that's a good thing. That's a huge win for free speech, because it's the same deal with what people like to call hate speech. There's really no such thing as hate speech. I mean, let's face it, the Supreme Court certainly believes there's no such thing as hate speech, right? Because who's to say whether what you're saying is hateful or not? And even if it is hateful, so what? You still have the right to say it. You still have you have the First Amendment right to be hateful. The same way you have the First Amendment right to be a racist, you have a First Amendment right to lie. That's freedom of speech. And for those of us who are free speech absolutists, which I very much am, yeah, you have the right to say anything you want. I would never condemn anyone for saying anything, even if I personally thought what they were saying was absolutely disgusting and vile. I don't care. You still got the right to say it. But
that includes cuss words.
Absolutely it does. Yeah, absolutely it does. And so basically that's the end of the story for that. That's all. I'm sure the legislators in Hawaii, the Democrats running Hawaii, will now get together and furiously attempt to probably rewrite this law so that they can start enforcing it again. But they're going to have to be very careful now.
You know, Michelle, the Babylon Bee was caught up in a similar legal challenge to a anti-deepfake law. Can you fill us in on this?
Well, it actually wasn't them. They joined it. There were multiple lawsuits involving a video by Christopher Coles, I think his name was, that was a deepfake making fun of Kamala Harris. And the video reportedly said, I'm the best example of a DEI hire.
I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist.
I mean, if you watch a video like that, you know it's satire. She's never going to come out and say that. So you'd have to have almost no perception and wisdom to see that was not satire. And so that incident had several lawsuits. Babylon Bee got involved as well, and Elon Musk got involved. But the judge only pulled out parts of that law and he didn't even comment on the free speech element that you just discussed. So I don't even know what he was thinking. Well, no one knows because he didn't opine about it. He just said that the federal law, it violated the existing federal law. But I wish somebody would write a long diatribe in their opinion so that this goes away, because the fact that it's popping up again after it's already been struck down with the California one is disturbing. Because what, is every state going to start doing this now? Sue when they don't like what somebody says, which is humorous. They're like the thought police. But if we go back to every election in my lifetime, they've made fun of Republicans on Saturday Night Live for sports or on any of the late night talk shows. And if they held those same standards that they're holding against Babylon Bee and this filmmaker who made fun of Kamala Harris, in 2008, I remember when they were making fun of Sarah Palin. And the skit on Saturday Night Live was, I can see Russia from my house.
And I can see Russia from my house.
Well, guess what? She never said that. Sarah never said that. I was living in Alaska at the time. We all referred to her as Sarah. Sarah never said that. It was Tina Fey. But do you know how many people believed that she was that dumb that she said, I can see Russia from my house because of a skit?
Yeah.
They could do it on their side. Babylon Bee is a little bit more entertaining than a lot more entertaining than Saturday Night Live, because really they focus they don't just make fun of things. They make it also intellectual. They make fun of the lack of intellect in it. But I don't think it's going to I think it's going to fall, and I think that it's not going to go away. I think every blue state's going to come up with a similar law, and they're not going to care. They're just going to keep trying to push the envelope.
Okay. That was pretty thorough. Dave, can you touch on that a little bit? What other states are starting to use laws like this?
Well, Sarah, there are a number of states that have attempted to curtail satirical media, claiming that such speech unduly influences voters with disinformation. Now that, of course, denigrates the educational system, which probably should be denigrated. But as you might suspect, leading the list is California, and everyone's milk bottle or milk carton picture Minnesota that have passed legislation prohibiting deep fakes. Now, I would make the case that some deep fakes are not satire, but are designed to, in fact, persuade and are, in fact, disinformation purposefully to mislead voters. But it's very difficult to tell the difference these days. And hopefully at some point you'll have a technology that'll be able to do that, to discriminate between the satire, the parody, and the purposeful efforts to deceive. Texas actually was one of the first states to recognize the problem of deepfake videos and attempted to do something legislatively about it. And there are other states that have active or recent laws and proposals to limit, and this is the problem, limit satire, parodies, or deepfake videos, and they lump them all together, which I think is problematic. And it's particularly at election time. I mean, New York, Michigan, Washington, Virginia, the standard cast of characters that you would expect. But there are over 25 states with some level of limitation on parodies, satire, and deepfake media. So the problem these states have is that the courts have repeatedly held that satire and parody particularly enjoy a very strong free speech protection. And so it's a problem, but it's one that we're not going to easily solve.
I'd like to point out before we go further that I was hoping beyond hope that on this broadcast we would not say Minnesota.
Well,
We've done that.
that's a problem when you have the Minnesota state is on most.
It's on fire.
Well, yeah, most.
People are starting to lose faith that it might still be there in a
The
year.
fact that it's only going on in Minnesota is telling. So what are they hiding? Because I believe that chaos.
We're
is
not
a cover.
talking about Minnesota. We're not.
Okay, we're going to go back to free speech, and I'm going to say, Mr. Clark, do you agree with Michelle? Is this just a backdoor into destroying free speech?
Well, here in Vermont, there's a law passed that actually Republicans are not allowed to speak at all in public. That was satire. And satire has a long history. In fact, I would propose that we just jettison Minnesota and make it part of Canada. That's just my modest proposal.
Swap them for Greenland.
But I'm making an illusion again now. So in reference to what Dave was saying, by the way, you may have seen the problem with deepfakes is, you can take photos and alter them. There was a photo of Alex Petty, Pretty, right?
Yeah.
That actually made him look prettier, right? The goal is to make him look more sympathetic. But what I find intriguing about this is that this court decision, you're just speaking from a legal opinion, it said, and I don't think they'll appeal it because I think they know they're going to waste their time because their statute was just so ridiculously over the line. And yes, there is hate speech, Graham. It's protected, short of imminent, sort of some of the stuff going on in a certain state beginning with M that we're not going to mention, where you're actually calling for attacks. That's not protected speech. And by the way, Sarah will be happy to know that her F-bomb is protected in a California case, state of California versus Cohen, a classic free speech case. The Supreme Court has ruled that the KKK and actual Nazi groups have the right to speak, just not in, Charlottesville. That is not allowed anymore by the left. So they're actually going against foundational constitutional principles of liberty on the left. Yeah, I used to watch Saturday Night Live. South Park too, I like because they make fun of everybody. If you make fun of everybody, that's satire. When you only make fun of one side, Daily Show, Jimmy Kimmel, then they're not comedy. You're not even comedy anymore. And so, but the court found that this statute was facially unconstitutional. That means not just as applied, but right on its face. It was just crushed, and it said it engaged in unconstitutional content regulation and person regulation because of the way it categorized certain groups. So it's a double problem. And then furthermore said that the disclaimer that they required was also unconstitutional because it would unfairly influence how opinions were perceived. So the court also ruled that they had not met the least restrictive means test And that is the invitation, open the door that Graham referenced, of going back to the drawing board and try to do it again in another way. Stay tuned for what Hawaii does next.
What Hawaii does next. Okay, well,
Aloha.
Aloha. And I think today's lesson, class, is even jokes are not safe from those hungry for power. Thanks for watching. Thanks, panel. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform. YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, we're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation News has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. And stop by to see our new aggregate polling operation, The Public Square. I'm your host, Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today to get your fix of free thinking and free speech at libertynation.com.